Hi everyone, this is Amy from the Helms Academy, and today we're doing our Math Roundtable recap from November 5th, 2020. So today we talked again about word problems, and as always, we went over the same steps. We're going to first highlight or underline, or at least identify what the important information is in the problem, and then we need to figure out how we can put that together with operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. We can use that information to write out from words now into numbers, and then we'll be able to solve. So for word problem 1, it says the area of a square is 64 centimeters squared. What is the length of one side of the square? Well, the first thing I want to think about is what a square looks like. I know that a square has 4 equal sides. So to find the area of a square, I would just multiply 2 of those sides together. Well, side times side, or I could think about it as side squared. So let's use that. If we know that it's side squared, then we know that the side squared, or 2 sides multiplied together, would equal 64, the area. Now, if I wanted to get rid of a square, what I have to do is think about the square root. So to get s by itself and to take away that squared, I'm going to take the square root of both sides to even out this equation. That leaves me with just a plain s, and then I just do the square root of 64. Now, you can do this on a calculator, and with smaller numbers, you might even be able to do some of this in your head. A square root is just what number multiplied by itself equals 64. You could do some quick math and think, what is 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5? But ultimately, you're going to get the answer of 8. So we know that the length of one side of the square is 8. For word problem 2, it says Marvin is helping his teachers plan a field trip. There are 125 people going on the field trip, and each school bus holds 48 people. What is the minimum number of school buses they will need to reserve for the trip? So to get started, we're going to identify our key numbers here. I see 125, I see 48, and I know that it wants me to figure out the number of school buses. So I need to first divide. 125 divided by 48 is about 2.6. So that should tell me how many buses I need. Now, the trick here is that I can't rent 0.6 buses. So I would need to figure out total that I can't just rent a half a bus, I'd have to rent another whole bus. We're going to round that number up then to 3. For word problem 3, Lisa was assigned 64 pages to read for English class. She has finished 3/4 of the assignment. How many more pages must she read? So we know that Lisa has total 64 pages, and we know that she's 3/4 or 75% of the way through that assignment. So if she finished 3/4, that means that only 1/4 is left to make the whole. So we know she still has 1/4 of the 64 pages to read. Now, how would I find out how much that is? Well, I'm going to translate that 1/4 into the decimal form so it's easier to multiply. And the decimal is 0.25. So if I multiply 64 by 0.25, that should tell me what 1/4 of that amount is, which is 16. So our final answer is 16 pages. For word problem 4, it says the local firefighters are doing a Fill the Boot fundraiser. Their goal is to raise $3,500, and after 3 hours, they have raised $2,275. Which statement below is accurate? Well, for here, we know we have these $2 amounts, $3,500, the goal, and how much they've actually raised in the 3 hours that they've gotten started on it, which is $2,275. So we're going to have to test out all these statements to see which one is accurate. So let's look at one at a time. If we want to figure out if they have raised only 35% of their goal, is that true or false? Well, to figure out how much 35% of the goal is, I would just multiply 3,500 times 0.35, which is $1,225. So let's put that in the sentence. They have only raised $1,225. Does that make sense? No, we know they've raised more than that. It's $2,275. So option A is not going to work. For option B, it says they have 35% of their goal left to raise. So we already know what 35% of their goal is. It's that 1,125, which we did in the last problem. So here we see if they have 35% of their goal left to raise, that means what they've already raised plus that 35%, 1,225, should be equal to 3,500. And it is. So then that's true. They do still have 35% or $1,225 left to go. And so they're hoping to make it to that goal. So our option B is looking really good. But because these can be a little tricky, I always encourage you to look at all the options before you decide. So let's look at option C. They have raised less than half of their goal. Well, let's find out what half is. 3,500 divided by 2, which will split it in half, is 1,750. Well, we know that they have raised 2,275, and that is more than half of the goal, which would be 1,750. So this one cannot be right. And for our last one, it says they have raised more than 3/4 of their goal. So 3,500, to figure out what 3/4 of that amount is, we would just multiply it by the decimal form, 0.75. We get 2,625. So if we know that they have raised they've raised more than 2,625, then our current amount should be higher than that. But unfortunately, it's not. They've only raised 2,275, which is less than that 3/4 amount. So D is not going to work. So that means that our only remaining option will be B, the one that we found earlier that definitely makes sense in this context and matches with the math. Word problem 5 says a tent originally sold for $260 and has been marked down to $208. What is the percent of discount? So for this one, the first thing we need to do, whether we're finding a percent increase or a percent decrease, is find the difference between our dollar amounts. So our dollar amounts are $260 and $208. And we know ultimately we need to figure out the percent of that. So let's find out how many dollars difference this is. So if originally the tent was $260 and now it's $208, that means we saved $52. Okay, so far we have $52 discount. Take a look at those options, A, B, C, and D. Do you see how one of these might be a little tricky? Letter C says 52%, but we know right now this is $52, not 52% of the total. So we need to pause here to make sure we get the ultimate right answer. And to do that, we need to figure out how much $52 is as a percentage out of the original $260. And to do that, all we do is divide. So 50 divided by 260 equals 0.2. And 0.2, when we switch that into decimal format, is 20%. So our final answer here is that they received a 20% discount. For word problem 6, it says the value of y is between -3 inclusive and +8 inclusive. Which of the following represents y? For this one, I'd encourage you to find a number line. A number line you can draw quickly, and it'll help you to get a visual so that you can answer these questions correctly. So let's put ours out. Here's a number line, and we see the numbers -3 and +8. So we know that the value of y is between -3, and it says inclusive, so it could even be -3, and +8, and it says inclusive again, which means it could also be +8. So the circles there represent our two ends, but we know that y is anywhere between those two, even including -3 and 8. Now, to figure out the value of y, what we need to do is put this into word form. We don't need to solve for a specific number, but we do need to show which inequality makes sense here. So on this side, if I look at the -3, I would say that y has to be greater than. See how all the other numbers are bigger than -3? So y is greater than or equal to -3. And again, the equal to comes from that word inclusive. So that's one side. Now, if we think about the 8, then we would say y is less than, because everything else from the 8 is smaller, or equal to 8. So when I put those together, I need to find which of these inequalities represents those statements. And ultimately, it's going to be letter A. You can see that both of the greater than, less than signs have the line underneath of them, which includes equal to. And that's going to be really important here. So that would automatically knock out B and C where we don't see those. And here we want it to read correctly. If we look at -3 and y, we could say -3 is less than or equal to y, or reading it backwards, y is greater than or equal to -3. And for 8, we see y is less than or equal to 8, or we could read it backwards, 8 is greater than or equal to y. So either way that we read it, we'll be able to see that it matches up with the information we looked at earlier and mapped out using our number line. Thank you so much for solving with me today, and I hope you learned something new about math. Good luck preparing for your tests, and don't forget to check out our other videos and subscribe to our channel for all the latest content. You can also look at the Helms Academy on Facebook and Instagram and at our website at helmsacademy.org.